basic school and I fell in love. I didn't know I had the aptitude to do it. But over time, experience has taught me that I am one of the best that has come into this field. And I'm here today just to expound on what it is that I believe we need to do better by the early childhood system. I put in focus this afternoon, frankly speaking, that a doctor is able to diagnose a patient rather for a treatable illness. But instead of giving the medication, he just hands over the diagnosis and say, good luck with that. Why am I saying this? I'm saying this because we have done all the research. We have done all that needs to be done to know what needs to be fixed. However, we fail to fix it. And today I am saying that what early childhood education need is not more research, but more action. And that's what I want to have happen in this discussion today.
Thank you. Thank you. Dr. Reeves? Dr. Reeves, are you hearing us? Go ahead.
I would say that early childhood chose me. It was never my intention to be an educator. However, by doing a youth service program at the age of 17, and I realized the impact I have on the babies, I decided to press on. And with my personal philosophy that speaks about changing one life at a time, why not change it at the foundation? And once you make that positive impact at the foundation, then the future is bright. Thank you.
You both clearly have passion and have good intention. But Dr. Reeves, is the early childhood sector, is that foundational level, is that what is responsible for the poor performance that we are seeing at the upper level, certainly at the primary and secondary level of the system?
So the answer to that question is twofold, because there are so many things that take place while the child is at the early childhood level that can influence their further growth and development. So while the school will provide the holistic development and all the necessary developmental programs that the child needs, when he or she goes home and interact in society, if that positive change is not fostered outside of the school, then it can have a negative impact. So yes, early childhood education forms the foundation, but the failures sometimes come with the influence from society itself.
But I'd love you to come down definitively. If I say to you, what's wrong with the education system starts at the early childhood level, would you disagree or agree?
What is wrong? Again, I would disagree somewhat. And why? When you look at the budgetary allocation and the resources that are placed at the early childhood level compared to what is given at the primary, the high school and the tertiary level, it is woefully inadequate if we want to lay that solid foundation. Too often, practitioners at the early childhood level have to use their own resources to make sure that whatever they're imparting to the students, they get it. So from a national level, what is to be done at the early childhood level, it's not been done. But because of the dedicated practitioner and the selfless practitioners that are in the education sector, they use their own resources. They go out and seek funding to provide a holistic and positive and impactful service at the early childhood level. So yes, the foundation is there, but the support from the government is not where it should be.
All right, Ms. Jackson, can you give me your view on that?
Oh, definitely, Sir McKnight. I agree. There's a lot of finger pointing that happens when it comes on to the education system. And the finger pointing is in reverse order. So the high schools blame the primary schools and the primary schools blame the basic or the infant schools. And I'm agreeing. We don't have the resources that we need. If it is that you are building a house, you are not going to shortchange on the amount of cement and sand and steel and digging into that foundation, or that house is going to fall. The house is going to fall. And so if it is that early childhood is so important, why not invest in that foundation? Invest in the foundation. I'm not seeing that happen. And so at the end of the day, we still are in this blame game and this finger pointing as to where the problem lies. The problem lies with the policymakers, those who have the ability to make the change
before you go to the
what
policy,
is necessary.
Yes, before you finger point over the policymakers, I would love to, Winnie, can you just tell us some of the comments we're coming? Coming back to you, Ms. Jackson, I want you to tell us whether the early childhood system, including you and the others in there, whether that is responsible for what's happening at the primary level and subsequently the tertiary level. I want a more definitive answer from you. So, Winnie, can you see the comments? All right, Winnie's having a little problem with her system, it seems. Carolyn Clark Brown was saying she seconded something. I'm not sure. Many, Rosemary Clark says, many areas need to be addressed. There needs to be more consequences for actions and lack thereof. Consequences. Rowena says, quite so. We often use our own resources, I think she's saying. And Dan Bailey is saying, 13.98 cannot fix the problem. So I would love to know, Ms. Bailey, what that 13.98 you are saying. Well said, Dr. Reeves. Raven Walker says, and I know Raven was in the system herself. Well said. So I'm coming back to you now, and we're waiting on Winnie because Winnie helps us with the comments. But I'm coming back to you, Ms. Jackson. So are you saying or not that the sector, whether you point over at the policymakers, or you point at the teachers, or you point at the students, or you point at the parents, is it responsible for what we're having going on? Ms. Jackson.
All right. In my context, we are not the problem. Okay. Can't get more definitive than that. We are not the problem. Because I know the impact that we are making in our space.
All right.
And when I say, go ahead.
Finish your comment. Finish your comment.
When I say in our space, I see what happens in my school. I have a school that houses over 300 children.
Over 300 children. 300,
and this is a basic school.
Yes, okay.
And I have seen growth in literacy, social skills. I have seen the impact that my teachers are making and our systems that we have put in place are making on the children here. So when we send them out, we are sending them out satisfied that they have attained the requisite knowledge, the requisite skills to do well when they go into the primary level.
Quick question, and that's a big basic school, but
yes, it
what percentage of your children leave there being able to read and write? Leave at age 5 plus?
So I am going to say I just sent out 83 5-year-olds. 83 5-year-olds just left me last week, Thursday. Yes, Thursday it was. And I can definitively say, yes, sir.
Go ahead. Yes, go ahead.
Right. I can definitively say that I have 87% reading. 87. How do I know this? Because I do assessments internally. So I know what is happening with them. Now, that other set, that other 13% that is left there, it's not that they can't read, but they are ready. They are at a stage of readiness. So I'm not worried about them. So I know that we are doing what we need to do in my space.
So the great majority of them coming out of your school are ready for, what's that, grade 1?
Yes, they are. They are. And I want to say to you also,
and those 13% who can't read, I'm worried.
Right, so I want you to step in there because I want you to know, sir, that it is not our responsibility really to teach them to read. It is to get them ready to read.
I beg your pardon, so whose responsibility is that?
What we understand is that we are to get them ready. when they go out, when we give them the necessary skills at this time, and they get into the primary level, then all of that which was planted in them will bring out that skill of reading. But what I know is that sometimes we need to, our pushing causes it to come to the fore. And we know that there's a push for literacy, so we want to get our children reading. Readers are leaders.
Okay, and I thank you for your honest position, but 83% are reading, and you said the others are ready, and I honestly don't know much about are ready and not reading, but I hear you very clearly on that. And I'm coming to Dr. Reeves in a minute, but let me just take some more of the comments. We are having some issues with Winnie, who has been knocked off the system repeatedly. Rosemary Clark again says, parents get the support, but those who are not playing their role need to be held accountable. Teachers who are not performing should be the early child, should not be, I think, not be in the early childhood sector. Marva Hewitt says, Dr. Reed, this is the problem we're seeing in the school system. Rosemary Clark says, sometimes teachers are stuck in their old ways. Teachers, finger pointed. And Winnie picked up and said, grades 1 to 3 is still early childhood education. That's Winnie's always had a concern about what we call in early childhood education. Dr. Reeves, your experience, you are in an infant school, government infant school. That means it's different from what we understand as basic school. You get a lot of resources. Is that correct? You get a lot of government money. You have a lot of trained teachers, diploma trained teachers, etc. And you are graduating 100% literacy. Is that correct?
So while all my staff, I must say, are paid by the government, the resources, however, most times I have to go out and seek the resources. I'll give you an example. Presently, we're going to recertification with the Early Childhood Commission, and I have to be going out to seek sponsorship so I can get the institution itself ready for recertification. As it relates to ready for reading, I'm going to say, presently, the set that went out, 90% of them are reading. But what we also need to understand, Mr. McKnight, the issue of transitioning from the early childhood system to grade 1 at primary is an issue because some educators don't understand that grade 1 to 3 is also falls under the early childhood system. So the early childhood.
That's what Winnie is saying. So you consider 1 to 3 as early childhood as well. Okay.
So at the early childhood level, say from birth to 6, we do an integrated approach. But when they go to grade 1 with a bigger class and they are forced to do everything on their own, that transitioning process is not done in an effective way. Because once they go to grade 1, the first thing they have to do is a written diagnostic test. While at the early childhood level, we do what is called anecdotal record, observation, developmental checklist. At grade 1, no, the first thing they have to do the diagnostic test, and then they go into subject base. These are babies who are still trying to even pronounce or even spell their names, because some parents give some of these children some name that they themselves cannot spell. So that gap between leaving the early childhood sector and going into grade 1, that transition needs to be addressed. And sometimes we lose the children during that transitional period.
All right, we have some scratching sound, viewers and listeners, and we're sorry about that, but we're trying to, Joshua is trying to deal with it, including muting mics and so on. So let me just check with that Dr. Reeves and also ask Ms. Jackson if she agrees with you that there's a problem in the system in transitioning. But before we ask Ms. Jackson that, I want to ask you, why do you have 90% and not 100% reading out of your school? I'm not accusing you of anything. I just want to know, why is it that you're not able to say 100% are reading?
So we have students who join the institution January, and it's impossible for a teacher to take 5 months to get that child up to the level for grade 1. Because you still have parents who in the community who are not sending the children to school. Again, we have students with high absenteeism rate. And these are children who their parents collect pass. And if you don't go out there, if the teachers don't call them and say, send the children to school, they don't come. So there are many factors during the school setting that affects us from having 100% of the students ready to read at grade 1. When you have a student who is absent for 30 or 40 days out of the term, and you call parents, you visit the home, you even have to threaten them that if they don't send the children to school, they will report them. So there are so many other factors that affect us at the early childhood level to meet that 100% quota.
Dr. Reeves, just very quickly, and I welcome you, Desmond. And Desmond is going to ask a question. But Dr. Reeves, who visits the homes and tell the parents, send out the children? Is it your staff or is that a separate set of people from the Ministry of Education?
The staff will visit. I will do same.
Your staff?
Yes, the staff goes. Or the staff call. When we don't see the children, the staff will call to say what is happening. We will go in the community to find out what is happening. The ministry, the policy holders don't assign us field officers like guidance counselors at the primary and the high schools who have guidance counselors to do home visit. There are some infant schools, however, that have cluster-based guidance counselors. And those cluster-based guidance counselors oversee like 3 schools, the infant school and probably 2 or 3 other primary schools.
Wow. It sounds a lot, man. You put in a lot of, but a comment. Desmond wanted to ask a question. Desmond, go ahead.
No, the question I want to ask is this. Is it a fact that early childhood teachers are supposed to be specially trained? And if that's the case, I would like to know how many specially trained early childhood teachers are in the system.
All right, Ms. Jackson, I would love you to take on that first. Ms. Jackson, go ahead.
If the teachers are specially trained?
Are supposed to if they are supposed to be specially trained, and how many in the system are so specially trained?
All right, so I don't have the numbers as to those who are specially trained. I think the chairman would have come and given some numbers the last time she was here. However, at the basic school level, we are assigned at least two trained teachers. At my school, I am the trained teacher on MOE with the Ministry of Education, and I have another teacher who is recognized as the temporary trained teacher. The others are trained.
Trained mean diploma trained.
Diploma, degree, masters, you name it.
Right.
So we have them right across in the basic schools.
And this is supposed to be the case in all basic schools.
No, not necessarily. So if what happens, the teachers, most of the practitioners at the basic school level are trained with HEART NC TVET. So they are trained at level 2 or level 3, and there is also a level 4. But there is that focuses on, it is specialized in early childhood. So these teachers are trained.
So let me just ask you following Desmond, just following up Desmond's question.
Yes.
Your school has 2 college-trained university degrees, 2 teachers.
As a matter of fact, I have 3, but only 2 are paid.
Oh my God. And then you have these other teachers. How are those paid? Are those paid at the salaries by the Ministry of Education? How are those paid?
No, they are not paid that way. School? They are paid by the institution and they receive a subsidy from the Early Childhood Commission.
A subsidy. So they're not really getting a salary from the government.
They don't get a salary from the government. It's just the subsidy, and the subsidy being 19,000, 18,000, or 33,000 per month.
Per month.
So Franklin. So
let me just establish this for other people who don't know. The highest subsidy might be $33,000 per month for a
Yes.
teacher.
Yes.
$33,000 Jamaican dollars.
33,000, I think
for,
400 and something.
Get
I have
out of
it.
here, Miss Jackson.
Yes.
So what happens if the school doesn't have people who are paying the school fees, as we understand, does not mean many
They have
schools.
to eat their passion.
Oh my God. Oh my.
Frankly,
Desmond, go ahead.
Frankly,
Go ahead, Desmond.
what that situation, there are many basic schools in Jamaica who cannot afford to pay the teachers. Because one of the things we have to remember, we have to remember the history of basic schools in Jamaica, how they start. And the fact that they have to be paying trained teachers. I can tell you that there are many, I know of many basic schools who cannot afford to pay a trained teacher.
Okay. All right. I'm going to go to the comments now, but I'm going to come to you about Dr. Reeves right after this, because I want to finger point, as Mr. Jackson was saying, I want to finger point in your direction and the JTA, and you are the chair of JTA. So I'm going to come to you shortly. There are several comments we have missed out. Winsome Davis James was saying, so true, Dr. Reeves, I endorse what you say. Dion Bailey says, to fix the problem is that we need to continue the integration approach until grade 4. And I think she was talking about that transition which you're speaking about. Dion Bailey says, Winsome Davis James says, she was mentioning the diagnostic test. And Winnie says, too much side way copy taking from overseas, that we're taking a lot from Dr. overseas. David Walker says, yes, Dr. Reeves. And the long holiday to a new environment, the children are classroom culture shock, says Winsome Davis. And Carolyn Clark Brown says, agree with you, Winnie. Too much copying. And we're going to take, we can't take many of the comments. We're going to try to take some more of the comments. But let's just go back to Dr. Reeves. Dr. Reeves, you mentioned that transition, which I see from the comments a lot of people are also saying. But how could this be continuing when you all are part of the education system, the same system, and you and the JTA have a committee for early childhood? What sort of pressure do you exert on the Ministry of Education to change that part of the system and also to help you to get children into the schools? Your time, Dr. Reeves.
So, as the national chair for for Jamaica Teachers Association Early Childhood Committee, we have on many occasions, the president and the team has lobbied with Early Childhood Commission and the Ministry of Education to adjust what is being done during the transition from the basic and infant school to grade 1. And they keep on pointing it back that the teachers at the basic and
one of our colleagues has a radio there, some sound on, and its background sound is disturbing us a lot and disturbing the viewers on this. So go ahead again, Dr. Reeves. If you have
so they have. We even had a conference recently, and sad to say, from the early childhood conference that was held on May 28th, only 2 primary schools were present. Only 2. And this was open to right across Jamaica, because the primary schools don't think that they need to attend these conferences to see the best practices streamlining from one grade 1 age to the next. I also want to touch on another point too, as it relates to compensation of the teachers at the early childhood level. The Jamaica Teachers Association has put a claim forward for all teachers at the early childhood level to be paid according to their qualification. So we're looking at no more subsidy, but they should be paid according to their qualification. So the lobbying has been there, the representation has been there, but the powers that be at times are too slow. Far too slow.
Dr. Reeves, one of the persons I must say who has educated me a little bit on the early childhood system is Rowena, who used to be inside of the JTA's system, educated me a lot. Rowena Newman Ridley. And I've always asked her, is it because you don't have what sort of membership you have from the early childhood system among your in the JTA? In other words, I've heard people say you're not advocating for them because they're not real members. Is that correct?
Well, that has changed. A resolution was passed a year ago that any teacher at the early childhood level can become a member. But you know what? We find out what is happening, Mr. McKnight? When their membership form is sent to the ministry or to the early childhood commission for the deductions to begin for them to become members, sometimes it takes a year or two. And these forms go straight to account. So sometimes we have to wonder if it is union busting that is taking place. Why? That teacher at the early childhood level can sign up a form to become a member of a credit union and become a member of the Jamaica Teachers Association on the same day. And the two forms go to the same department, but yet still their membership to become a part of a credit union starts. And they wait a year or two for their membership fee to start being deducted as a JTA member.
Well, you are a powerful union, so you can deal with that. I just want to find out from your school before I try to get a few more comments. From your school, you have all college trained, not just hard. Is that what's happening in your school? How many teachers do you have?
Yes, my 3 teachers are college trained. My caregivers are trained up to level 3. But my 3 teachers are college trained.
Okay.
And I have 2 other caregivers who are presently in training at college.
All right.
Frankly,
Desmond, comment to you, Desmond. Let me just take some more comments quickly, please, Desmond. I'm coming back to you. We have Winnie was saying children develop at different levels. Dion Bailey said we need teachers. We need teachers. Part is for family, not for early childhood education. And he says we don't all get guidance counselors. That says Rowena, I think that's Newman Ridley saying not all the schools get guidance counselors. Some students have developmental delays and will make strides as they mature. Waveney Walker said, that's exactly how we lose students who were performing at a steady level, and the transitioning to grade 1 is a major slide. And so the finger pointing is over there, grade 1 in primary school. Maria Barnes is saying, true, Dr. Reeves. Desmond, go ahead. I'm not being able to take. No, Desmond, go ahead, and then I'm coming back to Ms. Jackson.
What I'm saying is that the situation that we are facing now, where so many students at high school are illiterate, it is a clear example of government negligence. Because here we are being told that trained teachers at basic school are not on the government's payroll. No.
Yeah, in there for a subsidy. Subsidy which is lower than the minimum wage, by the way.
No, yes, no, look at it. The minimum, the early childhood education is the foundation of the education system. You know. The best teachers, the best facilities and best teachers must be at the early childhood level. Because what you are doing there, you are building a foundation. And if you build a strong foundation, then you will have a strong house. When you have a weak foundation, that is why so many students are reaching primary school and secondary school unable to read and write. It is the negligence of the government.
Right. And I take Ms. Jackson.
Mr. McKnight,
I'm here.
Yes, go ahead, Ms. Jackson, because I was asking you as well about the resources that parents bring and the responsibility that parents have. How do you deal with that absenteeism, if anything? And you also have an additional business of having to collect fees How does that work in your situation?
All right. Before I go directly, because I don't want the time to end and I don't say this that is on my heart.
Okay.
We are gonna put in focus last data that we got, 2,285 early childhood institutions, most of which are basic schools. Yes, I think we got 284 infant departments, not remembering the standalones. But what this is saying to me is that most of the nation's vulnerable are in basic schools.
That's a crucial point, because, sorry, I just want to overemphasize it with you. That Mrs. Singh pointed out that there were 2,283 EC institutions. Joshua is putting some of that on the screen there right now. And 319 are certified. That's another issue. But less than, it's only 484 are infant schools. 484. So it's about 20%. And the great majority are basic schools. So the great majority are in other words, are like you, Ms. Jackson.
Yes,
are like
they are in our care. So I wanted us to do the math, because I want the people to know where the children are.
Yes.
Now, at the end of it all, we have most of the children being in these basic schools with quote-unquote untrained individual in private institution. Why is it that our government believes that we are private institutions and we should fend for ourselves? We should make our own monies to address the needs of the nation's most vulnerable. The nations. Now, most of these schools are community owned, community based, but the government has a responsibility. Stop saying they are private schools. We know that. We are providing a service to the nation. Come over here and help us. Not just with talk, but with your money. I want to put something to you, sir, and the panel and everybody that is on. I was at a basic school, Seaview Basic School, and I'm telling you, we had a program there from Barita Education Foundation, Rip Up Reading. When they came in and they did the data collection, did the diagnostic, did everything that was needed to be done, train the teachers in how to get the children at the reading level. I am telling you, Mr. McKnight, the children were sought after in the primary schools. They say, I need children from there. I left that school and I came to this institution that I am right now. And I said, okay, I am implementing the program that works without resources, with whatever I had in my hands. And what I did first was to pull up the morale of the teachers. These practitioners who feel like they are nobody, they are demoralized with what is put in their hands at the end of the month. And when I began to work on them and pull them up, I saw a different result in the children, to the point now where I can say I am sending out a greater percentage of readers. I know what works. It is my experience. And what I am here to do is share my experience so that we understand where we can move and get the education system at the early childhood level at a place that we can be proud of.
All right, I appreciate and understand that. Who you said sponsored that system at Seaview?
That was the Barita Education Foundation.
Okay. So additional resources were put into the system.
Yes.
But in your situation and in the many of the basic schools that you know, you have to collect fees from the parents.
You have to fend for yourself.
Some of them don't have it, or some of them have it and don't pay it. I mean, it's both ways, because the priority is not there. But how do you manage? How do the schools manage?
I must tell you, it's collaboration and good leadership. Because you have to know how to, even if persons are not there yet, you help them to get there. So they know that the fees are to come in, because that is what helps with the overhead costs for us. Light is there, internet bills are there, the salaries are there. So we work with the parents and we say, all right, we're going to put you on a payment plan, whatever is necessary. And we do little fundraisers to get in the income that is necessary to keep the school going. Because we're not locking down, we're providing a service to Jamaica's children.
Beautiful. Thank you. Dr. Reeves, I know you're going to believe in us in a little while. We're going to be wrapping up this section of the program in a little while, but I needed to ask you now, your school, you don't have to collect those, but is there general assistance for infant schools? Because you have a broad view, you know, from where you sit on the JTA Education Committee as chair. Are there resources given to infant schools and so on, for example, by the private sector generally, to help pull you up? And what do you see as the biggest need in the funding area for your schools? Schools like yours, not yours personally.
All right, so as it relates to private sector, the infant schools have to go out and seek the assistance for their individual needs at their institution. I need to make a point, however, though.
No, but don't you get a grant? Well, there's this background noise. Oh yes, you're at an institute. But aren't you getting money from the government based upon the number of students in the school, the infant school?
All right, so we get nutrition grants and we get a maintenance grant. But that nutrition grant is not able to last us for a term, you know. So we have to collect a contribution from the students to help to offset their nutritional needs at the institution on a daily basis.
Explain that a little better for us. You get a nutrition grant from the Ministry of Education. And that is how much per day per student, roughly?
All right, so some schools get up to $300,000 for a term. And let's do the math. For a 2 weeks period at an infant school like mine, my wholesale bill alone can come up to $90-something thousand for 2 weeks. And I'm giving $300,000 for a term, for argument's sake.
12 weeks, yes.
We get a maintenance grant of $150,000 for the start. That is in the account already. But can I tell you that just to get 2 sections of the back of one of my classroom grill to be in compliance to reach certification, the cost of the grill work and material is $217,000. So in this case, it either asks the government for more, and if they have it, they will give it, or I have to go out there and seek funding from either the trust fund or private sector. But I want to scare my right. So I need to make a point, however.
Go ahead.
The Jamaica Teachers Association was the one that lobbied the Early Childhood Commission to speed up the results of the 4-year-old assessment that is done. And we're seeing a change in that. I also see a change where they're doing a second screening. But Mr. McKnight, can I tell you, when the second screening ends and there's still work to be done on the individual child, it ends right there, because at the primary school, the information is either not shared, or even if it is shared, it goes to file 13. So hence what the problem is.
Dr. Reeves, you are colleagues, you are people, your friends are in the primary school. You have the various commissions and committees, in the JTA.
But then you have to realize that each level answers to different persons. So for my school, for example, I answer to the Early Childhood Commission, I answer to the trust fund of my institution, and I answer to the Ministry of Education. Now, if the information is not passed on from Early Childhood Commission to the ministry, so the ministry can pass it on to the primary school, then that child stays at that level. We also need to bear in mind that we have children with mental issues, emotional issues, and without a guidance counselor to tap in and solve those problems, it continues. And they're sometimes lost in the system. So oftentimes,
I'm going to come back to Halima Jackson, and I'm going to come back to Ms. Jackson on that matter of children with disabilities, mental disabilities in particular, mental deficiencies, and whatever the various issues are there. But I just want to read some couple of quick comments, because we have a lot today. Rosemary Clark says there are limitations in the basic school as the school is privately owned. Yes, Carlin, I agree. Reverend Clark says cruelty to teachers. That is with regard to the payments that are being made. Rowena says, playing devil's advocate here. Why would I have a school, a private entity employing staff that I cannot pay? Would I not be in business to make a profit and just pay my staff without a subsidy? As I'm going to ask Ms. Halima Jackson to say that. Why would you take on staff and you can't pay them? Don Bailey says, we have over 1,627 degree teachers. Don't know exactly what that is. However, you says, what a disgrace. Then Bailey says, we have over 1,128 diploma trained teachers in the early childhood sector. 1,128 diploma trained teachers. And remember, people, we have over 2,228 EC institutions. So even if we had, if we have one to each, it only take us halfway through those institutions. Maria Barnes says more than a year or two, Dr. Reeves, to get the payments out of the ministry. Winston Davis James says, Ministry of Education, they're slow at everything. My caregiver signed up and her membership fee is taken forever for the deductions to begin. And people, I can't get through all of these comments. And after Miss Jackson, your time, and Desmond, I'd love you if you could share the experience from your school where you are either chairman or something there on how to manage with the fees. But if you don't want to, that's all right. Ms. Jackson, can you go ahead now?
Yes, I want to, because I saw the devil's advocate's comment, so I wanted to speak to it.
Yes.
Because that is why I allowed us to put in focus that if we lock down, if we shut down this business called basic school, the country is going to be in trouble.
I can understand that because we only have
the teachers
20% are government schools. Yes.
Thank you, sir. So it is a minimum wage that they get. And I know no self-respecting teacher wants to collect a minimum wage at the end of the week. Minimum wage. All right. Yeah. So it's $15,000 per week, $60,000 per month for those of us who can afford to pay that.
And then the government subsidy on top of that, but that might be.
Yeah, but you look at it, and I'm telling you, the work that these hard-trained teachers put in is sometimes more than what others put in. I'm not asking any questions. I am telling you. I
can appreciate that. It's rather a disgrace. But
it pains my heart when I see these individuals who are giving their life to this sector because they love it, because they see the impact that they're making, and yet still others fail to see what they are doing.
Okay.
It is really demoralizing.
I understand. That's on your time.
Well, you know, what is plain, a lot of us don't want to say it, but what is plain is that the governments don't have the interest. You see, first of all, let me point out something. Most of the students who attend basic schools in Jamaica are black children, black people. And as I said before, the basic school must be the strongest arm of the education.
Sorry, Desmond, I'm going to allow you to come back and finish, but Dr. Reeves is going to leave us now because she's at a graduation ceremony and she's this guest speaker. Dr. Reeves, just wrap up for us your final comments before you go, and we really appreciate it because we know you put yourself out a bit today for us.
The early childhood sector is the foundation. It is full time for the government and society to put their money where their mouth is. Too often we speak about the foundation is important, but we are not pumping the funding and the resources there. I also want to tell my fellow practitioners, keep at it. We can make that change one child at a time. The society is asking us and is relying on us to be the agents of change. Let us hold strength, hold forth, and continue making that change one child at a time. We are here to stay. The foundation needs you. Government, private sector, step up. It's time for you to step up. It's time to stop the bag of chatting and step up and put your money where your mouth is. Thank you very much.
Very much. And we really appreciate Dr. Reeves coming on here today because she is at a graduation ceremony and she'll take herself away to join us, and we really appreciate that. Desmond, let me allow you to finish. I broke into you, and then we're going to ask Ms. Jackson to wrap up.
Yes, as I was saying, that it is clear that the government is not paying attention to the foundation, and I am also questioning the JTA, because I think the JTA should take it on up as one of their responsibilities to represent these teachers, these basic school teachers. Now, I am associated with a basic school in a rural part of Jamaica, where most of the parents are self-employed. And I know that, in other words, life is tough. The school depend on the fees, and sometimes the fees are not paid on time, right? And the fees are small, but what's
the level of the fees, Desmond? You know, or can you say?
I think it's somewhere, if my memory serves me right now, I think it's about $6,000 per term.
Per term? 3 months?
Yeah. Yes. But the fact of the matter, Franklin, is that we will have to appeal to the government. And I think we are in the right season to do that. That the basic school, the strength, the foundation of the educational system in Jamaica needs some resources, right? It is resources. If we are going to address the literacy situation in the country, we must address the basic school level so that we can prepare the students for primary and high schools. That is the foundation, and it must be strengthened.
Appreciate it, sir. All right, Ms. Jackson, we're going to give you the chance to wrap up and also to say thank you. You are taking a positive view. You're not doing too much finger pointing yourself, but I'm pointing over there, and you're part of the thing. But you go ahead and you wrap
up. Certainly, we need to step up. We need to, as a country, recognize that the foundation is important and it needs to be addressed. Not just talk, but action is required. I put in focus as well, the fact that if we have more trained teachers, college-trained teachers, to strengthen the core of what happens in the early childhood sector, that will help as well. Presently, as I indicated, we only have maybe 1 or 2 within some of the basic schools. And even in that, when July and August comes, the temporary trained teachers don't get a salary again, even though they have their degrees and their diplomas and their masters.
They don't get paid over the holidays.
July and August. July and August, they have to go.
You all allow that situation
because it's called a contract.
Dr. Reeves again.
It's called a contract.
And Mr. Mark Smith.
So there are a lot of
things. And the new incoming president of the JTA. These are some.
There are a lot of things that the teachers face. And I believe that if it is that we want to fix, some of the issues, we have to really look at the people who are there at the base, who are interacting with the children, and help them up. Yeah, provide the necessary support that they need. Yes, it is that we want the children to get somewhere, but the ones who hold the children in their hands, we need to remember them as well. We need to remember them as well.
All right. Ms. Jackson, I want to thank you very much and for what you continue to do at your school and in the system and in the sector. When we were preparing for this from weeks ago, we spoke with a couple of people and they said, get Ms. Jackson, man, she can talk for the basic school and she will talk for the basic schools and they're the majority. And so we are glad for having you on as an educator, and you're at Wilbert Stewart Basic School.
Yes,
Where is that? That's in Kingston.
Yes, this is in Kingston, off Windward Road.
Off Windward Road.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Again, we want to thank you very much. And we're just going to read a couple of comments that kept coming in. Well, Winnie is back with us, and Winnie is saying basic schools are privately owned. Winnie will make her point herself. Marva Hewitt says, thank God for those teachers who have the passion to give of themselves at the basic level. It should be a priority for any government. Winnie says the schools existed before the ECC. Carlin Brown says basic schools are not ready to hand over the reins of operation to the government. Not ready. Well, I don't quite know, Ms. Brown, what you mean by that. The offer was made, basic schools charge a fee which, if managed properly, is to pay teachers with the subsidy received from the government. But they're not managing, Mr. Brown. Waveney Walker says teachers without a love and passion for education, growth in children will not make sacrifices in getting those salaries. Leon Bailey says not all basic schools are private. Only 426 basic schools are straight private. All the others are public private. Well, I don't know those numbers myself. Miss Bailey and Marie Montague says, so true, Miss Wilkins. Owen Richards says basic and infant school education was never given a priority in Jamaica. And when you have some comments, is she back with us yet? And lots of comments are coming in. Dr. Reeves gets applause. Oh yes, Ms. Barnes says fees vary, and they do. Desmond makes a good point. Owen Richards says the majority of education should send observers to China to observe their system. Ministry of Education should send observers to China to observe their system. Okay, so we are now into our other final segment of our program. We thank those people who were there with us. Desmond, it's your turn, and we have lost Winnie. We should be trying to come back online. But Desmond, it's your turn. You said you have some election issues to talk about.
Yes, I am again focusing on the promises. Look in today's Gleaner. 1 year ago, we had Hurricane Beryl, and in today's Gleaner, there are victims who are still waiting to have their homes fixed. I have been talking to people in St. Elizabeth, one of the parishes that was badly affected. And as we speak, they are still waiting. The farmers down there, they are still waiting. But you hear the promises. And what I don't see, I know that this is a old practice, but I was hoping that the voters would be asking the prospective members of parliament what is going to be done for them in order to address their daily needs. Water. Look at what we are talking about here now. The early childhood education. You hear anything about this on the election campaign? Nothing. You don't hear the politicians talking about these things, right? You don't hear them talking about how they are going to deal with landlessness. right? You don't hear them. The fundamental issues, healthcare, and these issues which affect the daily lives of the majority of the people are not being addressed, and they are not going to be addressed either. It is very unfortunate.
We're running out of time, but I'm taking the opportunity, and Winnie, we welcome you back. You gave space to others. I'm taking the opportunity to express our condolences to the family and friends of journalist, a Caribbean man, Ricky Singh.
Oh, yes, Ricky
decades
Singh.
of work in education.
Yes.
Decades of work in educating us about the Caribbean. Ricky died on the weekend. He was a Caribbean man, born in Ghana, but lived in Barbados and traveled all over the region. And you know, I'm not going to get the chance to talk about something that I want to talk to because we're running out of time. But people, let me ask you something. Why is it that a dozen limes must cost, as I've seen in supermarket, over $1,000? A dozen limes we're talking about. As to oranges, those were selling over the last 2 weeks, oranges in Jamaica at between $1,500 and $2,500 a dozen. Our agricultural system is failing in a colossal way. And you know, all those guys who used to go to farm school, who go to JSA, the old farmers, they are failing us because they aren't even explaining what is happening. Patrick Maitland, my friend, and others, you're letting us down. True.
Patrick not letting us down, you know, Mr. McKnight. Let me tell you, again, you don't see that what the attention that is paid to agriculture. You don't listen.
Next time we're going to have to leave it there. Please remember to subscribe to the Frankly Speaking Jamaica YouTube channel. All of you out there, remember this program is on the channel now. You can go there and watch at your leisure anytime. Thanks to panelists Winnie Anderson Brown and Desmond Richards. Thanks to our special guests. Thanks to Joshua Black of Joshua Black Media Services. I'm Franklin McKnight. Until then.